to Run the Length, an accelerated gameplay commentary series covering Marvel Crisis Protocol. The matchup today is Ghostier, aka Nate Horn, playing X-Men, versus my Web Warriors and Brotherhood of Evil Mutants roster. I win priority and choose Extracts. I'm trying to avoid Nate's very strong hired muscle play on Spider-Infected or Skrulls. I actually did a version of this in my last video. I choose Montessi Formula Found, and Nate chooses Mutant Mad Man turns City Center into Lethal Amusement Park. I choose 17 points to avoid Nate's ideal roster setup. This prevents him from playing 3 X-Men, Proxima, and Corvus with Reality. If he wants to play the super scary Corvus package, he has to take Taskmaster. I'm planning on playing Brotherhood here because the secures you have to interact with are really bad for Web Warriors. They are power-starved, and I really want a web line to deny my opponent points. It's also worth noting that if they play 18 points in Brotherhood, I am probably bringing in Venom, and X-Men have a ton of energy attacks. Nate's roster is Storm, Beast, Taskmaster, Proxima, Corvus, Reality. My roster is Magneto, Mystique, Toad, Gwen, Valkyrie. Nate's tactics cards are Medpack, Brace for Impact, Disarm, Climbing Gear, and Recalibration Matrix. My tactics cards are Asteroid M, Brace for Impact, Field Dressing, Recalibration Matrix, and Climbing Gear. Here is the deployment and terrain sizes. I announce that I am using the Magneto leadership. While I don't subscribe to the school of thought that Magneto's leadership is just better than Mystique's, I do think that Mutant Mad Man not interacting with Mystique's leadership puts it behind Magneto's. I activate Toad, double walk him to within 2 of the middle spellbook, and pick it up. Nate activates Beast, walks up to the trap, and flips it. I activate Beast, walk up to the trap, and flip it. Nate activates Proxima, and double walks to the lower trap, and flips it. He uses Wife of Corvus Glaive to immediately activate Corvus. Corvus walks up and is out of range to shoot Beast, so he uses the Storm leadership to jump closer. He does an Adept Splitter to Beast, dealing 1 damage. The chain activation is really important here, since it will let Nate activate first next round. I activate Magneto, walk up and try to flip the trap, but he fails. He moves up again, but stays contesting the trap. Nate activates Storm. She walks forward and picks up the leftmost spellbook, then moves behind the box for some cover. I activate Gwen and double walk to the top right trap and interact, but I fail to flip it again. Nate activates Taskmaster and walks him up behind the center crates. I activate Mystique and walk over to the book. She picks it up and then walks behind the barrels. This ends the turn. I score 2 from Montessi Formula and 1 from Mutant Mad Man. Nate scores 1 from Montessi and 2 from Mutant Mad Man. Score is now 3-3. Nate has priority. Magneto places a construct in the power phase. Nate activates Proxima and walks to within 2 of Corvus, and doesn't spend her other action. Then uses Wife of Corvus Glaive to allow Corvus to activate next. Wasting one of Proxima's actions here allows Nate to gain an attack with Corvus, which is super worthwhile. Nate activates Corvus. Corvus uses the Storm leadership to jump to Proxima. Corvus does a death blow on Mystique and does 3 damage. The death blow allows Corvus to advance to the other side of Beast. He hit the wild on the death blow, so he uses Flurry to strike Mystique, dazing her. She drops her spellbook next to Corvus. Corvus picks up the spellbook and moves next to the trap. He tries to flip the trap and fails. Nate decides not to attack Beast here in an attempt to deny field dressing on Mystique. I activate Beast and attack Proxima, dealing 1 damage. Beast hits Ambush and must jump to Proxima. Beast strikes Proxima again and deals 1 damage. I throw the barrels at Proxima and she takes no damage. Magneto's leadership gives 1 power to Beast and 1 power to Gwen. Nate activates Storm. She walks towards the fight at the bottom of the screen and throws a lightning bolt at Beast. She misses. I activate Toad. He advances twice to the top right trap and tries to flip it. He manages to make it happen. Nate activates Taskmaster. Tasky walks up to Beast and uses Mnemonic Technique. He does 1 damage to Beast. Beast gets a skull and generates an extra power. I play Field Dressing and remove Dazed from Mystique. I activate Magneto. I throw a tree into my construct to both spread out my power and guarantee that I can place my construct in a relevant spot next turn. I use Magneto's leadership to give power to Magneto, Toad, Beast, and Mystique. I play Asteroid M and teleport Magneto to Mystique. Magneto attacks Corvus doing 1 damage. Magneto attacks again doing 2 damage. Magneto throws a stump at Corvus and gives 1 power to Gwen with the leadership. Corvus takes 1 damage. Nate passes. I activate Mystique. She walks up to Corvus and uses Espionage, dealing 1 damage. I think I misplayed this a bit. I think Mystique should have gone before Magneto and put the stun on him. I'm also a bit worried about Magneto fighting Corvus without Lifesaver or field dressing. Nate activates Beast. Beast walks up and attacks Toad. He does no damage, but hits the skull and the wild, making him power and jumping him to the point. Beast throws Gwen into Toad. I play Brace for Impact, preventing the collision. I activate Gwen and walk toward the left side of the table, and then attack Beast with a spider technique. I deal 1 damage and walk to the trap. Gwen flips the trap. This ends the turn. I score 1 from Montessi and 3 from Mad Man. Nate scores 2 from Montessi and 1 from Mad Man. The score is now 6-7. Nate's Beast and Corvus each take 1 damage from traps. This dazes Corvus, but his card does get to flip because this happens in the cleanup phase. Nate has priority. Magneto places a construct in the power phase. Nate activates Proxima and uses Spear Throw on Magneto. I choose not to boost my defenses with Force Projection. She does 2 damage and poison. She attacks Magneto again using Quantum Starburst. I spend for Force Projection. She does 2 damage, bleed, and stun. Proxima uses Wife of Corvus Glaive. Corvus activates. He attacks Magneto with Death Blow. Magneto spends for Force Projection. Corvus dazes Magneto and hits the Wild Flurry. Corvus walks over to the trap. He takes his flurry attack into Mystique, dazing her. Corvus does a Death Blow into Beast, dealing 3 damage. Beast grabs an extra power from a skull. Corvus hits the flurry and strikes Beast again, doing 1 damage, dazing Beast. Corvus flips the trap. I activate Toad and use the spellbook on Beast. Toad misses. Toad attacks Beast with Tongue Lash. He misses again. Nate activates Taskmaster and grabs the spellbook, then walks over to the crate near Toad. I activate Gwen and walk over to Beast. She does a freestyle beatdown on him. Gwen dazes Beast. Nate activates Storm and double walks over toward the top left trap. This ends the turn. I score 1 from Montessi and 2 from Mad Man. Nate scores 2 from Montessi and 2 from Mad Man. The score is now 10-10. I activate Magneto and throw the size 4 tree at Corvus. Corvus plays Brace for Impact. I use the leadership to give 1 to everyone except Magneto. I attack Corvus, dealing 3 damage. I spend 3 power to throw Mags' construct at Corvus. Corvus takes no damage. I use the leadership to give Magneto 1 power. Magneto attacks Corvus and deals 1 damage. Magneto throws the shrub at Corvus. Corvus blocks it all. So the dice didn't go my way here, but I think I could have taken a better route through Magneto's throws and attacks and maybe minimized the impact of Braced. Corvus activates. Corvus does a death blow into Beast. He deals no damage but does hit the flurry. The flurry goes into Beast, dealing 2 damage. Corvus does another death blow into Beast, dealing 3 damage and missing the flurry. This KOs Beast. He uses Wife of Proxima Midnight. Proxima activates and attacks Mystique with a Spear Throw. The attack will do 4 damage to her, so I use Recalibration Matrix to force us to reroll all of our dice. Mystique takes 2 damage from the attack. Proxima is placed by the Spear Throw. She strikes Mystique. Mystique takes 2 damage and lives on 1 hit point. Proxima uses Medpack to heal Corvus 3. Corvus and Proxima spend 1 power each to play Disarm on Mystique. Disarm reduces Mystique's attack dice by 2 for the rest of the round. I activate Mystique and attack Corvus with an Espionage. It does no damage and Corvus takes stun. I try to flip the trap with Mystique and fail. I move Mystique over to the other point and I am just short of being able to interact with it here. Nate activates Storm, who flies onto the top of the crate and uses Eye of the Storm to boost a lightning bolt into Gwen. Storm fails to do damage and Nate has no power on her to flip the trap. I activate Toad and spit acid on Beast. I deal 2 damage to Beast and incinerate him. Toad then attacks Beast with the spellbook. He KOs Beast. Nate activates Taskmaster. Tasky walks over to the top right trap and tries to flip it. He fails to flip it. I activate Gwen and impact webbing into Taskmaster. It deals no damage. I use impact webbing again. I fail to do damage again. Gwen uses Webline to pull Storm off of the point. This ends the turn. I score 2 from Madman and 1 from Montessi. Nate scores 2 from Montessi and 2 from Madman. The score is now 14-13. Taskmaster and Storm take 1 from my traps, and Mystique and Magneto take damage from Nate's traps. Mystique is KO'd. Nate has priority. Magneto places a construct. Mystique dying for nothing here is a big mistake. I think that I should have just moved her off of the traps and tried to pull attention away from Magneto. Nate activates Corvus and strikes Magneto. I use Force Projection to boost Magneto's defense dice. Corvus misses the attack. Corvus strikes again and does no damage. Looks like Nate's dice are abandoning him. Corvus uses Husband of Proxima Midnight. Proxima activates and double moves to the front left trap. I activate Toad and spit acid at Taskmaster. It does 3 damage and puts Incinerate on Taskmaster. Taskmaster uses Photographic Reflexes and does 1 damage. Toad attacks Taskmaster with the spellbook, but Toad only does 1 damage and leaves Taskmaster on 1. Taskmaster uses Photographic Reflexes and does 3 damage. I use Slippery and move Toad away from Taskmaster. Toad then hops away from Taskmaster. Nate activates Taskmaster and uses Mnemonic Technique on Gwen. Gwen takes 4 damage. He attacks Gwen with his spellbook and misses. I activate Gwen and attack Taskmaster with a freestyle beatdown. I miss. I use Climbing Gear to move away from Storm. I do a Spider Technique onto Taskmaster and roll no hits. Spider Technique lets me run away from Storm some more. I don't think playing Climbing Gear was worthwhile here. I think I should have just gone for the daze and saved Climbing Gear for Magneto so that he could threaten the double flip. Nate activates Storm. She walks to the top left trap and flips it. She then walks to the top right trap and flips it too. With that, I scoop it up because it is impossible for me to win the game or even force it to go another round. This game had some wild, spiky dice, but overall, I think I lost due to some bad decisions. I think that using Asteroid M the way I did was a huge mistake. I picked a fight with Corvus and Proxima with Magneto and had none of the tools to guarantee that I would get another activation. Gwen stayed on the other side of the board, and I had already used field dressing. Throwing Mystique away to the trap also felt super bad. Overall, I think Brotherhood are a really strong affiliation, while I still remain less sure of X-Men's strength. But I think that this game has proved that they are an excellent delivery system for Corvus and Proxima. But let me know what you think of these new affiliations in the comments. If you're new here, secure the subscribe button. I'm Vincent Curkov, and this has been Run the Length.